This episode of What If It's Cool is brought to you by Respro Clothing. Respro Clothing, where you can get the latest merchandise from all the stars, including Luke Resner, Som, Savannah Rowe, Nova Nichols, and my personal favourite, Conflict Axiom. So make sure you check out Respro Clothing. You can find them on Facebook and on Instagram. Hello and welcome to another episode of What If It's Cool, the show where we talk about anything and everything that is cool in the world today. I am the Mighty Morphin Power Ranger, Daniel Paul Crow, and on this episode, I have a sit-down interview with EVO. We talk about his start in backyard wrestling, to going pro, name changes, and Power Rangers. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. I probably should have Googled that with EVO. Thank you so much for being part of What If It's Cool. I know you are busy, and I know, and this is not your fault, this is my fault. We've rescheduled this a few times because I've either been sick or I lost my voice. I finally got somewhat of a voice. It's going to crackle a little bit here and there, but I do appreciate you taking the time for being on the show.
No, I appreciate you having me on the show, man. I really do.
Yeah. Yeah. I know I asked you this off camera, but I've just got to make sure I've got this right. You went by a different name, didn't you?
I did. I used to wrestle when I was still a backyard wrestler, actually. I used to wrestle as ELP. And as most of the people who are going to watch this will know, that ELP is another wrestler much more famous than I am and has been doing this much longer than I have. So I had to change that when I went from backyard to pro wrestling.
All right. Well, we'll get back. We'll get to that name change later on in the episode. But I want to firstly ask, who inspired you to get into wrestling?
Oh, okay. So sort of like lifelong fan, like earliest memory is like way back in like 2004 or something. I'm not exactly sure because I was very little at the time, but like seeing the Undertaker come out and like all the people in the ring scattering, and I was like, wow, this guy's so cool, and wrestling. And I was like, oh, and then like, had a babysitter when I was younger that used to watch it constantly. And yeah, just fell in love with it. And I literally, like, you go through phases with things like, I'm big into this, and that wrestling just never went away. And then yeah, we here in Mildura, I had a friend, my tag partner actually, he knew some people that had bought a ring and just chucked it in their backyard. And I went, that's cool and that began it. Like, we all just started doing backyard wrestling, and it's over the last 5 years morphed into becoming a pro wrestler.
Wow. What is it about the Undertaker that just brings the, like, you just want to be? Because like I mean, I'm a lot older than you, but for me, I grew up, my first memories of wrestling is obviously Hulk Hogan, Randy Macho Man Savage. But when I think of somebody who really inspired me and wanted to really get into the whole aspect of it, is Jake the Snake Roberts, because he was just fucking terrifying. And it wasn't this is everyone goes, oh, because of the snake. No. He is the only guy in the history of wrestling who can talk, whisper, and make you fucking frightened.
Yeah, and he was one of the greatest promos of all time, definitely.
And the scary thing is, Taker is exactly the same as well. Like, if you go back to the old days of like early 90s Taker, when he barely spoke, it was all whispers, or very like laid back and all chill. Terrifying for something like that.
Yeah. It was just, he just had this presence, and like as a very young kid, seeing it like on a TV and just watching all these like 20 plus people, in my mind at the time, I don't know if it actually was or not, but just so many people just running from him was so cool. And like, yeah.
Was this the Randy Orton angle? Oh no, that was 2005.
No, I think I've gone back and tried to find it, and the best I can find that matches my memory was his feud with JBL.
Oh, with his cabinet.
Yes, exactly. So I'm pretty sure that's what it was, but as I said, I was very little when I first saw it, so the memory is quite hazy.
No, it was a good angle, and that was man, I miss those days. That was so that I know we've come a long way in wrestling, but it's just
some of the things they did back then, although we would never let that happen ever again.
Yeah.
Um, I miss it. I just say
Yeah.
it like I'm gonna be that guy from that meme. It's still real to me, damn it. Um, because I will watch stuff in 2004 and I'm like, it's because it still hits the heart. I love today's wrestling. Don't get me wrong, but it doesn't hit me that white way anymore.
Mm.
Those did, you know.
I think I understand that. Yeah, like, yeah, and it might, like, for me, I guess it might be because I was so young, but like, it just feels like for a very long time, wrestling hasn't had the same like draw to the stories they're telling. You know, like for instance, the Bloodline has been a great story they've told, and like if I really sat here and thought about it, I could probably think of a couple more, but like overall, there's not many I've been really entrenched in wrestling in the last 5, 6 years, even.
No, no, I think you hit the nail on the coffin on that one because like the bloodline is very it was like as much as I love AEW, that was a storyline you had to watch.
Mm.
It was never dull and it man, I was hooked on, especially WrestleMania.
Yeah,
Like man,
it was incredible,
like
incredible.
say what you want about WWE, but that whole storyline and to still continue to this day, amazing.
Yeah, they've done really well on that one, and I think a lot of credit goes to Roman and like just his little nuanced things when you like the camera zooms on his face while he's cuddling like one of the Usos and he'll smile or something, and it's just all of that, like those little tiny things are what I love about wrestling, and that story is all it's telling it all perfectly. So yeah, I'm
Especially
quite
when
fond of it.
Sammy was breaking everybody.
Oh,
Oh, how
so
how
good,
you know he
so good.
hasn't been feeling really oozy.
Yeah, I'd pop big for that. And watching Jay literally have to go like this so he's not seen on camera laughing is one of the best things that's happened in recent times.
I have to admit, like, because I watched that promo so many times. And every time we do an episode of Heat here, I usually get somebody who will get me to crack. So I've now got into the habit of doing this, you know. So, but sorry to break the fourth wall with everybody who watches this right now, but if you see me do this in the middle of Heat, it's not because I'm scratching or yawning. It is because I am trying not to laugh. Um, the
100%.
the best example was the recent one with Adam Crow. I literally could not keep a straight face, and oh god, once he realized that I was doing that, he let it loose, and I
Oh
was like,
yeah.
oh my god,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, yeah. So you become a fan as a young boy, and then you start becoming a backyard wrestler. Firstly, how did you get into backyard wrestling? And obviously, I know a little bit of the story now, but how did you actually get into, well, how do we call it? I'm gonna say semi professional backyard wrestling.
Right. So it's quite literally I had my tag team partner, Ryan, or um we went to primary school together and we were like the only two kids in school like wrestling. And so like we just stayed connected all these years after primary school through that. And then one day I see on Facebook that he's like standing in a wrestling ring and his location's Mildura. And I'm like, hang on a second. So I message him and I'm like, bro, is there a ring here? Like in this town so far away from where I would think a wrestling ring would be? He goes, yeah, man, you want to come? I was like, yes, absolutely, I do.
Yeah.
And yeah, I met like Frankie Grime and JP Bamford, like two of the other boys that have come from. It's called Wrestle House, which is the place we were wrestling. That have come and met them, and we just like there was a bunch more of us. A lot of us have not bothered with the going further with it, but like when we first started, there was about 12 of us doing it in the backyard. Um, and yeah, we were just all a bunch of guys who loved wrestling, but like we live 6 hours away from Melbourne or like 4 hours away from Adelaide and just couldn't afford it. Like I was 19 when we started, I think. Um, so like yeah, definitely just didn't have the opportunities and the means to make it to Melbourne for training and things like that.
Mm.
So we just went, screw it, there's a ring here, let's do this for our own entertainment. You know, who cares what anyone thinks of us? And yeah, we just ran with it. I mean, Wrestle House was born, and yeah, we put on. I think it was a consistent 3 years of backyard wrestling, and we are on Facebook and we are on YouTube. And yeah, then about halfway through that, we met the guys from MXW, A Shack and a few of the others, and sort of mingled with them. And yeah, MXW has become this proper promotion. So like, I don't think if it wasn't for MXW, I don't think I'd be a pro wrestler, because I sort of never had any ambition for it. I just wanted to do it for fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, MXW really took off, and like I got to wrestle in front of a crowd for the first time at the Horsham show last year, and I went, "Wow, that's a really cool feeling." And yeah, I've just been in love with it ever since. And but yeah, I wouldn't be here without Wrestle House and all those boys that I started this journey with.
Well, I've only recently discovered Wrestle House, and that's because of I can't remember if it was Frankie or it was one of the Cooters added me to the Facebook group.
The old Facebook group.
Yep. And I was like, what the hell's this? And then I'm looking, I'm like, this is just MXW, like early days. And then I've gone and checked out some of the footage, and I've checked out some of the stuff on YouTube.
Yep.
And hell, you kids were crazy.
Yeah, and it was all untrained, like, you know, that's you know, a sin to admit, but it was, you know, like we just got in the ring, and like we never did anything super crazy. We never got in the ring and tried to do a 450 or like, you know, a shooting star press. We just like we did what we were comfortable with. We did what we thought when we knew that our bodies could handle. And yeah, we just had fun, and like our families thought we were knobs for doing it, but they enjoyed watching it. So so we just ran with it, you know.
Yeah. Well, who actually started Wrestle House, if you don't mind asking? Because I'm as I'm watching, I'm like, I keep thinking in my brain that this was just MXW before it became MXW, and now you're telling me it's not.
Yeah. So Wrestle House, the like sole owner, like it's in one guy's backyard. It's never moved. It's one guy bought the ring all by himself. His name's Alex. And he wrestled with us, but he sort of didn't follow us into the pro scene. He didn't even follow us to MXW, really. He just stayed in Wrestle House. But yeah, he I think because he bought it a year or two before I joined, and before Wrestle House began, they just had a ring in the backyard because it was fun. And he would just saved up for a bunch of years and bought like a 20 by 20 ring and just put it in his backyard, just because he liked wrestling and wanted to, you know, have a ring.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like he is literally the reason that Wrestle House was born and I became a wrestler.
Wow. Okay. I mean, that's commitment to buy a ring, because
Yeah.
they are not, and for those who are wondering, they are not in shape, and they're not cheap the hire either, guys. Don't ask me how I know. I just know these things. It's not like I've tried to go into the ring, guys. And by the way, for my nephew, he keeps asking me repeatedly, like I said on the Cooters episode, there is no way I'm getting in the ring and taking a bump. Okay, absolutely no way. There's no. Don't never say never. There is. It's not happening. I want it on record right now that I am not ever doing that.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, I'm sorry, dude. It's just because like he's really at it on me. He's like, you gotta get on the ring. You have that. You talk to so many wrestlers. You love wrestling. You gotta start taking bumps. No, don't do shit. I'm an interviewer. I can do commentary, you know, but I am not getting in a ring. I am 36 years old, and I have arthritis in both my knees. I am not doing shit.
Oh goodness.
Well, talk to me how you've gone from Wrestle House and you transitioned into start going into MXW. Firstly, obviously you met Ace. How did that come about?
So we were like a year and a half, maybe nearly 2 into Wrestle House at this point, and we're sort of like, you know, you can wrestle your mates as much as you want, but eventually you've wrestled them all like 5 times, and it's like, well, let's find some new people to wrestle, you know, like let's see what's out there. And so the same guy who introduced me to the ring in the first place just jumped online, and like I think he just searched backyard wrestling in Australia.
Yeah.
And yeah, he happened to find one only 3 hours away from where we are in Horsham. And it was Ace and MXW and a bunch of the guys that I think Ace is the only one left from before we joined actually. And yeah, like, and when we first went there, it was all like, that was before Ace took over. It was all mattress wrestling. Like, we were just on mattresses, and us boys that had been bumping in a wrestling ring for 2+ years at this point were like, "Oh, these mattresses are great. We loved it, like, because they're all super bouncy, and you can do these stupid things that you can't do in the ring."
Yeah.
And yeah, we sort of we went and joined, and more of the rest of us boys started coming to MXW, and then Ace was like, "I'm gonna buy a ring." and he did. He just like, he messages me one day and he goes, I'm buying a ring. And I was like, "Oh yeah, cool." And then like I think it was like something like 2 months later, he's like, "I bought a ring." I was like, "Yeah, actually?" He's like, "Yeah, it'll be here in about 6 months." What? So yeah, and that's MXW transitioned to having a ring as well. And then yeah, it went from that. I think it was same year actually. Like, the start of the year we got the ring.
Yeah.
And by, I think it was September, was when the Horsham show was. We did our first live show, and we had mostly us yarders on the show, but we did have a few pros on it. Like, we had Xavier Black, Tom Barrett, Callum Butcher, Kid Valiant. Yeah, they all came and did the show with us. So yeah, and it was a really good show, and it sort of pushed us, and we all went, "We can do this. We can do this pro wrestling thing." And we all started getting proper training, and yeah, so
All right.
just, it went really quickly, honestly, from Ash just like, "I'm buying a ring," to we're a pro promotion now. So it just happened so quickly.
Well, talk to me through to your debut in front of a crowd. Who was your match against, and how did it go?
So on the Horsham show one, we had all day of wrestling, where we do segments of 3 matches, and then it was like either half an hour or an hour's break between matches, and we just sort of did that all day.
Mm-hmm.
And my first match of the day was in the 3rd or 4th block, and it was against Ace, against Ash himself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of my favorite matches. It was a title unification. We did the Carnage title versus the Commonwealth title before it got retired.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Ace and I we just kicked the piss out of each other for 5-10 minutes. You know, we had a board with cans cut up, and I put him through it, and he kicked the shit out of me with a chair, and it was ridiculous. But it was a really good match, and like, I was nervous as like going into it. Like, it was first time ever in front of a crowd, and I was so nervous. And I walked through the curtain, and the crowd cheered, and I went, "Oh, this feels cool." And I was good from there. Like, I was right. And yeah, Ace and I, like, we had a really good match. I'm still really happy with that, and that's before all the pro training as well. So,
right. So you hadn't even done the pros
yeah,
yet?
yeah. Ace had some at that point. I think
Yeah.
he'd had like maybe 6 months. Don't quote me on that. But I'd had none. Like, the best training I'd had was what Ace had showed me when he'd come back from his training. So,
well, I guess that's kind of training, but it's not not with a no, fuck it, that's training. I'll pull that. Ace, don't kill me, please. So obviously you've had your first match here, and it's gone really well by the sounds of it, and just that whole show, just from some of the footage I've seen on YouTube, it looked like an amazing environment to go through.
it was really good.
When did you actually start your professional training, and who was it with?
My first training session would have been, I think, mid-December, with Jason Crash. So me, Ace, and 2 other guys went down to Melbourne, and yeah, did like 4 hours worth of training with Crash and Misfortune as well. And they were wonderful. They had so much time for us, and like me especially, because the other guys that were going had already done some training. So this was my first go at it, and they'd already had some. And they had so much time and patience to show me and like help me understand what I was doing, wrong in places, but also what I was doing right. So I just a big shout out to Crash and Misfortune for being 2 of the best teachers I've ever had in anything, because they're so helpful. with everything they taught us. And I've had I think it's like 3 or 4 training sessions with them too now. Just because like distance still makes it hard, but like
well, it's a what a 6-hour drive, isn't it? For you?
yeah, yeah, and then for Mildura to Seaford's like actually like 7 or something. It's crazy.
Oh fuck me, that's
yeah. So like, yeah, I do my best, but like mostly we just try and do seminars with them when they come to a show where we're also traveling to. But yeah, no, that was my first one with Crash and Misfortune, and yeah, I learned in that 4-hour session. I learned so much, and I've a lot of the knowledge has stuck with me. So they've done an incredible job of being able to help get it across in a way that people like me who are still new to it in a way at that point to understand.
Well, what was some of the stuff that was very difficult to learn in that first session that you found?
In that first session, we did all our fundamentals, like we did the rolls and the bumps and things like that. And for me personally, difficulty wasn't like there wasn't anything that really struck me as like, oh, this is hard to learn. There was just things that like I had to do maybe once or twice before I got it, and I think it was my rolls, I think, where I kept putting my hand flat and rolling over it. And every time I did it, they'd go, "What are you doing? You're going to break your wrist." And I'd go,
"Yeah." I'm just like, oh.
And like I did it. I remember I did it the first time, and everyone was like, "Oh my God." And I was like, "What?" And they're like, "Are you all right?" And I was like, "Yeah, why wouldn't I be?" And they went, "You put your hand flat." And I was like, "Oh, did I?" I didn't even notice. So like I had to like train myself out of like doing that. I had to start doing the, wrist down thing. But yeah, other than that, I think I personally, I think my first training session went pretty well.
All right. Well, that's good. That is really good to hear. Now, it's becoming a staple question here on What If It's Cool. I know on the Cooters episode I said it is a staple question. I should reiterate it's becoming a staple question. Give me your best Jason Crash story that you've had while training.
Goodness me. Oh, what there's so many. Like he does. I think one of my favorites was like we're mid training and like where someone will ask him something. I can't remember what it was at this point, but like someone asked him about how you do a certain thing, and he'll just stand there and stare off into the distance like this for a minute.
Yeah.
And just completely blank. And we'll be like, "What's he doing? What? Crash?" And you go, yeah, hang on, right. And then he'll get back to it. He just gets lost in this little, like, I assume this imaginative thing he's doing in his brain. And it's just so funny to watch him like go from talking and training and all this moving to just silence and just staring off into the distance. It's always funny to see him do that.
Okay. That's a new one. So obviously I had the Cooters on a few weeks ago, and they were telling the story where I can't remember exactly what was said, but apparently there was a move, and Ace was unfortunately a recipient of this, and just let's check your opponent, and he went full blast, bang onto his back.
Yep, he gave it to Ace Good. I remember that one. That was we all sort of looked at it and went, oh, like he gave him that. I think there you go. There's another one for my first training with him. We were sitting there and he's like, one of the other boys had asked about chops, and I don't do chops too often because like it's just not like something I ever felt that my character did.
Yeah.
But I was like, you can practice on me, and he's like showing us how to position and all that stuff. And he's like, I'm just standing there, chest out, ready. Because he didn't say he was going to chop me, so I was just like, if he's going to chop me, I'm going to be ready. And he can tell that, and he looks at me and he goes, I'm not going to chop you. And I said, you can if you want. And he just goes, whack. And I had this big purple bruise here for like a week. So that was fun.
Oh God. JJ, you see why I don't want to be in the ring?
That was fine. It didn't hurt at all.
Oh man, I love you, Crash. Please don't ever try to convince me to get in the ring, please. Oh gosh. Now, you've also got the training, but we got to double back a little bit. You'll be coming up with your character, and you come up with ELP. firstly, what does ELP stand for, and how did you come up with it?
So ELP was the backyard wrestler, and I had technically two pro shows as ELP. One of them was the Horsham show, and one of them was the show in January this year.
Mhm.
And so ELP was my backyard character, and I used to work on sheep stations, fencing, and things like that.
Yeah.
And I'd be away all week. Sorry, I'd be away all week, and I'd be sitting there on the sheep station, doing fencing, whatever I was doing, and I'd be like, what am I going to do? What am I going to call myself? And I'm one of the worst people for imagination. Like I'm just terrible at it. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, can I just go by my name? No, my name sucks. What can I do? Can I use my middle name? No. What if, my initials? And mind you, I want to make it clear at this point, before I joined Wrestle House and became a backyard wrestler, I had almost no knowledge of wrestling outside of the Fed, outside of WWE and Impact. And AEW was like just beginning. So like those three, I had a little bit of a knowledge of New Japan just because I followed AJ Styles there. But other than that, almost nothing. So I had no idea there was a guy out there called El Fantasma, and he was going by LP as well. And so I picked it while I was on the sheep station. I was like, it's a cool name. I love it. It's my initials. It's Ethan Luke Parker. Like that's what ELP stands for. And I was like, yes, I'm running with it. And I get back from the sheep station. All the boys go, there's a wrestler called ELP. You can't be ELP. I was like, I'm not going to be a pro wrestler anytime in the next 10, 20 years. Not going to matter. 4 years later, 4 or 5 years later, I'm a pro wrestler. But yeah, so ELP was like, it was, I used to tell people when they asked me about LP, he was just me turned up. Like it was just Ethan, but at like 15 instead of the regular 10.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then I started doing the pro stuff, and I met like Callum Butcher and Joel Bateman and Xavier Black, and they all went, "You got to change your name," and I went, "Oh no."
Well, how did you come up with EVO?
So that was coming up with a new name nearly made me quit wrestling, because I was, again, so unimaginative and I hated it. And everything I wanted to use was already being used by someone. And
hang on. Before we even get it, tell me some of the names. I'm curious now.
Goodness. Like the front runners were Luke Parker, because that's my middle name and my last name. Or Lucas Parker. And I wasn't sure which one I was going to go with. And I settled on one of them. And I was like, no, I don't want to have like a name. I don't want to be someone. I want to be 3 letters. Because like
you didn't just bother just to go in a search and go, there's any wrestlers called this?
Nah.
Okay.
Nah. Didn't bother. And I knew that I didn't know of any Luke Parkers when I was thinking of it. But like what irked me about it was one of the Cooters, actually, Robbie Parker. Like Parker's my legitimate little like last name. So I was like, I want to use that. And I was like, but if I use Parker, people are going to be like, oh, they're brothers. And like a lot of the boys, when I told them about the name choice, were like, oh, you could be brothers with Robbie. And I went, that's not going to work. Like, we look nothing alike.
Hey, hang on. In saying that, though, I don't know how vast your knowledge is now in wrestling. The Andersons, with the exception of a slight detail, they look nothing alike.
Yeah.
The Grahams look nothing alike.
Yeah.
No, I was going to say something. I'm not going to break kayfabe on that one. So no, yes. Certain family in the Australian wrestling family don't look alike.
But yeah, it's just like it was between them, and then I sort of like I was thinking to myself, because like ELP to me always stood out, and obviously someone uses it and it does stand out. Like you see LP and you go, oh, why is it just 3 letters? That's cool. And like for me, one of my favorite wrestlers growing up was Triple H. And like, it was Triple H. It was either the triple and the H, or it was just 3 H's. And either way, you knew who it was. And I was thinking to myself, I want to stick to 3 letters. I want to keep that, instead of being like you say, like you see a list of people in a match and it's, someone. There's like no breakup in the names. You go, let's say, for instance, like the Cooters and me and my partner, it's Robbie Parker, JP Bamford, Ryan Karska, and then it's EVO. And my name's different. It stands out. it looks different to the rest of the names sitting on that board that you're looking at. And so I was like, all right, I'm gonna find 3 letters, and I just went through so many letters. I went through combinations of my 3 sons, first letters of their names. I went through combinations of like my name with one of my sons, and I was like, I can't do that. It's only one of my sons. And so I just brainstormed, and then me and we sort of sat down one night and we went, what can we do? And he gave me a bunch, and I was like, these are and then he gave me one, and I was like, oh, I don't hate that. And it was EVO, and I was like, all right, and I can make that work because like when I initially did it, when I initially went from ELP to EVO, I was still a singles wrestler. So I was going to run like this gimmick of like I was the evolution of ELP, like I had evolved into EVO. And I was like, yeah, that's cool. I'll run with that. And then like immediately after I changed my name, SPD became a thing. So like we just became SPD and became Power Rangers instead. So that didn't get to happen. But like that was where the EVO name came from. It was I was the evolution of my former character.
Okay. Oh, just when you say all that, it's like 3 kids.
Yeah.
Mouth. You're a busy boy.
Yep.
All boys?
Yeah, all boys. Yep.
Oh,
yep.
Good luck when they're teenagers, man.
Oh, I'm so looking forward to it.
Oh boy. But that's really cool. And I think in the future, if you do decide to change your name again, just do a Google search.
Yeah.
Before you do anything. Speaking of SPD, is SPD is what we think it is, or does it actually mean something completely different? Because I am still catching up on MXW.
SPD is purely based off the Power Rangers.
Okay, good.
Power Rangers SPD. So
look, if it wasn't from that, I probably would just like, dude, let's just move on to another question. I'm a big fan of the Power Rangers, so I when I found out that you guys are called SPD, I was like, that better be fucking. That better be a
100%. Like,
and
the shirt has us as Power Rangers on it. So,
oh, are you seriously? Look at that. Because I'm a plugger for money. Where can we get that beautiful T-shirt?
We're looking to bring some out soon, but if you ever make it to a wrestling show and you run into my tag partner, he will give you the shirt off his back. He has done it 3 times now at 3 shows. So if you get to him first and you're like, hey man, I like that shirt, he'll just straight up give it to you.
Oh boy, maybe get in contact with ResPro and get
yes. Been meaning to.
Yeah, speaking of ResPro, make sure to give them a follow, and they've got some interesting stuff on there, which he's got
some really good stuff.
Very good stuff on there, and if you ask very nicely, you might be able to get some What If It's Cool merchandise from them. Wink, wink. That's a cheeky plug, but yeah, but no, talk to me about the tag team, because obviously it's taken off, and you guys will be taking on these fellas.
We will, yes.
Now, by the time this episode comes out, unfortunately, we'll know the result, but we're not going to discuss it right here, right now. But talk me through with forming SPD.
So, again, SPD it's from the backyard. So, and I, when we started Wrestle House, we're like, let's wrestle each other a bunch, and we did. Like, and we were enemies, and we fought each other. I think it was like, oh god, like 20 times. It was a ridiculous amount of times for like a backyard wrestling thing. And then eventually we were like, all right, let's do tag team stuff. And we were like, well, I want to tag with you. And he's like, well, I want to tag with you. And we did. And then we were like, what can we call ourselves? What can we call ourselves? And we sort of looked at each other and we both went, we're like Power Rangers. And then we went, what's a cool Power Rangers themed name? And we went, SPD. And originally it was like the full like SPD emergency, which like you hear when the SPD emergency and it starts out. But we were like, nah, let's drop the emergency and we'll just run with that. And so we did that on the yard for a bit, and then he quit wrestling for a little while, and then when we got into MXW starting to become a pro promotion, he's like, I'll come back. And he'd been training for a little while.
Yeah.
Like he'd been training longer than I had at that point. And like came back and we did I think we did our first tag match just in the MXW shed. And we had a lot of fun. We both had improved tenfold from when we had last tagged together on the in the yard. And Ace and the rest of MXW management went, well, we want to push you guys as a tag team in MXW, and we went, it, why not? This is something that me and him had always wanted to do, and the goal was always let's try and win a tag team championship somewhere. So hopefully that works this weekend.
I don't know. I don't know. The thing is, you got to be first in the boss, and the beautiful Blake Curtis. I don't put it against my boys. I'm sorry.
I understand, and I see the merge, but I reckon you'll see something cool this weekend.
All right, I can't wait to see what happens. What happens in Warrnambool. It's going to be a very, very interesting experience. I reckon it's going to be. It's going to be. Is what I'm predicting. It's going to be. Now, moving on, we have obviously we talked a little bit about Power Rangers in your session of it, and I really got to get this one out. So, who is your favorite Power Ranger, and which is your favorite series? And if you say SPD, I'm like, okay, that's a given. But I thought it might be something different.
No, as much as SPD would be obviously the merch, the team, everyone's like, so SPD is your favorite? Yeah, it's like, no, that one sort of just was the best to roll off your tongue when you're talking about a tag team name. You can't really call yourselves the Mighty Morphins and or the Lost Galaxy. SPD was it was a cool name. It rolled off the tongue well, so we just picked that for that reason. And it had a really cool theme song. I will admit, SPD's theme song is such a banger.
It's in the top 3 of the Power Ranger themes. That's
100%. And so yes, most likely it should be SPD. It's not. And for me, I know that at Cal's Cal's answer will be different when you eventually have him on here. But me personally, Mighty Morphin, because it was just my entire childhood. I had all the videos, I had all the figures, and I loved it. I loved Mighty Morphin so much. I still do. And as for the favorite Ranger, it's obviously the Green Ranger. It's always the Green Ranger. As much as I like the next iteration, the White Ranger, Green Ranger was always my favorite.
You got all the correct answers in one, people. That's for sure. Because if you said anything other than Mighty Morphin, and if you went white, I would have gone, okay, white is kind of acceptable. If it wasn't a green, I'm like, I don't know. This might be the first and only time we see EVO on the show. Look, this is how old I am. I grew up watching that, and literally, I will never forget the first time I ever got to see. It was the Day of the Dumpster, which is the pilot episode. It was I'm pretty sure I was after school, and I just missed the start of it, but I got into it, and immediately captivated by it. It was so cool.
Yeah.
And I remember when they announced the toys, and God, I feel so old when I say this. I remember it was sold out everywhere. You remember obviously Jingle All the Way with that Turbo Man, it was all sold out. That's how bad it was for Power Ranger toys. It was hard to get. And I remember my dad, who wasn't working at the time, he went to several Toys R Us's, Targets, Kmart's, eventually got one, and he got me the Yellow Ranger. And you got to remember, I knew that it was a girl. He didn't.
Yeah,
but I still played the out of that toy.
100%.
It was so good.
It didn't matter as a kid which one you had, as long as you had a Power Ranger.
See, that's the thing. It didn't matter if you got one, because I think I was the only one in my school who actually got one, because I remember heaps of people were like, "Oh, we couldn't get one," and I bought it to school one day with the box, and literally everyone, even the people who didn't like me, came up and goes, "Oh, can I touch it?" 1994 was a different beast, the kids, you know. But man, like the thing is, Power Rangers is universal, and it's
100%.
man, like we could do a whole episode talk about Power Rangers. I reckon one day we probably should.
We should.
But one thing I will say on here though, and I haven't publicly said it though. Obviously, we did lose Jason David Frank recently.
We did, yes.
He is an inspiration, and will be truly missed. And like it killed me when I saw that.
Oh yeah. I woke up to the news. Like I was I think it was like a day where I got to have a sleep in, and I woke up at 9ish and I was like, roll over, grab the phone, and it's just blown up with like and just everything just been like, yo, JDF died. And I was like, are you crazy? No way. And then confirm. And I was like, that didn't feel real, because like he's the icon, right? Like, and like you think about Power Rangers and you think about Jason David Frank, because it's like just how committed he was to it, and like he'd come back for anything they were doing, and it was just it sucks to think that we won't get that anymore. Like any kind of reunion, there's going to be 2 of the OGs missing now, and it's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, the only saving grace we have now is obviously the is it the Legend of the White Dragon?
Yes.
Or White Tiger or White Dragon?
White Dragon,
White Dragon, yeah. I saw the trailer recently, and man, I was blown away, and I'm so gutted. I'm gutted that they can't make a sequel to it with him in it. I
gutted that he won't get to see his work as well.
Exactly.
I know how much he poured himself into that one, especially.
4 years he's been working on that bad boy. Man, I reckon, honestly, I reckon we need to do a Power Rangers episode on one of the school. We'll get on this one, because obviously he's a Power Rangers fan as well. We'll do that in the future. Anyway, moving back to your career. Man, I'm on fire tonight. What is the rest of 2023 going to look for you?
Well, it's definitely going to be tag team champion. That's in the cards. But the rest of it, like, I'm just trying to wrestle as much as I can. Like, this was the childhood dream. People ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up? And the whole life I said wrestler. I want to be a wrestler. And here I am, 24, 25 this year, and I'm a pro wrestler, and I'm just looking to do it as much as possible. Like I just love it. I love getting in the ring. I love taking bumps. I love throwing people around. I love the camaraderie that comes with it all, and like places like big plug for MXW here. MXW's backstage area is such a wholesome family feel. Like everyone is welcome, and it's an incredible feeling to walk backstage, go, hey, and the whole locker room to go, hey, it's so incredible. So just things like that, I just want to keep wrestling. I want to wrestle every weekend if possible. Like, it's obviously not quite possible. I live so far away, but like if I could, I'd wrestle every weekend or at least once a week. Like it didn't matter where. I just love it. I just love wrestling.
In saying that though, like with the family vibe, I have seen a lot of private videos and stuff, because thanks to our mutual friends.
Yep.
I want to be in an environment sometimes, especially I better not tell. Oh no, well, I saw some footage of the karaoke with you guys.
Oh, the karaoke. That was a good night. That was here in Mildura, actually. So that was a really good night. And we had a lot of fun.
It looked a lot of fun. And I'm seeing a lot of people act differently, and I'm just like, I want to be in that room. If I was to the one night just be a wrestler, I would love to be in that room to be with you guys to have that much fun. That's the only time I would want to be a wrestler, JJ. Only time. But yeah, no, it looks really fun, and I think a lot of the things that we miss in the wrestling industry as a whole is just having fun, because a lot of people take it very, very seriously, and they don't know how to have fun. And you guys no matter who I talk to or interview, the vibe in the background for MXW is just, it's f***ing fun, and it's a different kind of beast.
Yeah, and it's that's what I said. Like anyone's welcome. You know, like you can come in with one match experience, you can come in with no match experience, or you can come in a 20-year veteran, and we're gonna treat you exactly the same. We're gonna treat you like a part of the family because it's honestly the best way to be. There's no infighting, there's no toxicity. We're all friends, we're all having fun together, and like we do things like go out and have a karaoke night, or we every time we go to Horsham, especially, we do a dinner. Like we last Horsham trip for I don't remember the name of the show now, but the last show we did the night before,
Lord of the Rings.
No,
Lord of the Rings.
That was Mildura.
Oh, okay, hang on.
Is it Super Smash? Super Smash Wrestling.
Super Smash Wrestling. Yes.
That was the one.
Sorry. Yes.
But the night before, like 8 or 10 of us went out and had dinner together at one of the local pubs, and we just talk, and we have fun, and we tell jokes, and make memories, and it's such a wonderful place to be with a lot of wonderful people.
That's good to hear, man. Oh, we've come to the staple question here. What if it's cool? What is something that you find cool that nobody else does?
Oh, so many things. I'm such an oddity in the boys, because they'll say something and they'll go, "What?"
Give us one.
Hard to pick just one. Well, there's only one other guy in our little. Oh no, there's two other guys in our little friend group within MXW. One of them is my tag partner. We are massive figure collectors. We collect wrestling figures. We collect Power Ranger figures. We collect Dragon Ball figures. We collect Marvel figures. So Ace and I are rather big figure collectors of pretty much any kind. But like a lot of the boys go, why are you collecting figures? Like, well, because we enjoy it.
What? I'd always wonder why some people think it's not cool, because like they just are, like,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you're gonna be able to see it in the bloody camera because it's always unfocused, but I've got this, which is a I don't know if people that. Yeah, who is it?
I don't remember his name, but I know it's from Spawn.
Yeah, so this is the Violator or Clown from Spawn, and I found this for $5, and hang on,
that's a good find.
Hang on. Oh god, sorry for people who are listening. If I can just get this off. The fact that you can do that, transform.
Yeah, that's cool. That's very cool.
And it's actually and this has actually got real hair on it too. So it's like stuff like this where I'm just like, I not only do I find it cool, I'm just like, I'm finding it amazing, because like today's figures are not, although a little bit more articulated, they're not as thought after like what these were back in the day. Especially like McFarlane toys are just, they are a different beast of figure out there, and incredibly cool. And I think that's amazing that you collect them. What is your favorite figure in your collection?
Oh, that's a really tough question. It of all of them, it would probably it's probably a tie between 3 figures from 3 different collections. It'd be my Ultimate Edition Jeff Hardy, because I'm a huge Jeff Hardy mark.
The recent one that they did?
The first one they did. The first Ultimate they did with the long hair and the WWE Spinner title.
Right.
Love that figure. It is a huge Jeff Hardy mark. I've got it on me. So I love that figure with a burning passion. And then it would be my Green Ranger figure from the Lightning Collection Power Rangers.
Okay.
It is a fantastic figure. It's like I usually, we've been moving a lot recently, but usually it sits somewhere where I can see it posed. And then the last one in that collection would be my Super Saiyan 4 Goku from my SH Figure Arts Dragon Ball collection.
Very, very good figures.
Yeah.
Fucking jealousy you have them though. EVO, where can we find you on all your socials?
Socials, most of it is just Instagram. I do have Twitter. So Instagram is EVO_PW. And then I think it's just the reverse for Twitter, PW_EVO.
Well, link is all description for that. Make sure to check out EVO because he's absolutely amazing. And yeah, we'll definitely have to have him on the show as well to talk Power Rangers and figures
100%.
and maybe we
100%.
should probably get Ace on that.
Yeah,
episode too,
I reckon that's a good little episode we can do.
Because like one of the original contests for what if it's called when back when it was more people on the show, I always wanted to get a guest on here, and then they would pick a movie or a TV series. We talk about that and maybe do an interview question here or there. But I think if I have them all on here eventually, and then we pick a topic and we just talk about that, it's a different side of well, not only just you guys, but just a different way of doing a podcast. So I reckon if people are into that, please let me know and mention it in the comments. So that's another fucking cheeky plug. Oh God, I'm going over the cheeky plugs of the last few episodes.
Going off.
Oh, Evio, thank you for being part of What If It's Cool.
Thank you so much for having me.
And that's the end of that episode. Want to be featured on What If It's Cool or know someone with an interesting story that needs to be told? Reach out to me. I can be reached on whatifitscoolbusiness@gmail.com. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this show wherever you get your podcasts. Want more for What If It's Cool? Make sure to check out the YouTube channel where you can find the latest episodes of Mukbanging Around, Reaction, and of course, the podcast. And don't forget to follow What If It's Cool on all socials. It can be found at What If It's Cool. Keep that support coming. And until next time, I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.